Hello and welcome back to the Finding Your Feet podcast, a podcast show dedicated to helping you get closer to your true, authentic self by helping you find your feet in life.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. Today we are talking all about getting comfortable being alone and truly enjoying your own company.
We get asked this question quite a lot on Instagram, like how do I be more independent? How do I start to enjoy my own company? And it is a journey, but it's a journey worth going on. And we're going to talk about like how to basically navigate that journey and get yourself to a place of being comfortable in your own company and actually enjoying your own company, loving your own company, like literally setting dates with yourself. Like, you know, this afternoon at the weekend is blocked out for me to be with me and like read my book or do a workout, like things like that. Like you can get to that place where you actually make dates with yourself. You actually want to hang out with yourself. And that's a really powerful place to get to. And it's a really beautiful place to get to on your like self-development journey. And like when you're finding your feet in life, I think learning to be alone, like, and being okay in your own company and like it being very, I don't know, sort of like a time that you actually need, the same way you'd like need to see your bestie every like once a week or something for a coffee. Like you need to also catch up with yourself. So yeah, we're going to talk about that today.
Yeah, I feel that's actually like nothing more invigorating than looking forward to spending time with yourself.
Yeah.
Like getting to that point is just a really beautiful feeling because at the end of the day, all you've really got is yourself, you know?
Yeah.
And building that relationship with yourself, like you are the one you spend the most time with, that person inside your head. So building a compassionate relationship is really important.
100%. So I feel like a lot of people don't spend time alone, like because maybe they don't like actually being alone with their thoughts. Like they find it hard. So maybe like your mind isn't a very nice place for you to hang out in. So in that sense, you still do need to get over that. You do need to spend time alone to be able to like identify what are these thoughts that you don't like and change them. But also like a lot of people feel lonely in this world. Like in the modern world, loads of people experience the feeling of loneliness, and the feeling of loneliness obviously serves a purpose, because back in the hunter-gatherer days, if you felt lonely, then you were probably going to die, because if you were on your own and you weren't in a tribe, then you were probably going to die. Like, because all we used to do in those days is just try our best to extend our years of life. And now we've obviously smashed that, and we like live in this super developed modern Western world. So when you get those feelings of loneliness, sometimes like it is because you do need more connection. Like you are kind of isolated, and like our world does set people up to be isolated, especially over what's happened over the last 2 years. We've been in a pandemic where you've been required to isolate. So, you know, there's that, but also sometimes you have a feeling of loneliness, like, and you guys might have experienced this before, where you're in a room of people and you still feel lonely. And that is when it's the call to turn inwards, and that actually that loneliness is inviting you in to make a deeper relationship with yourself.
Yeah, 100%. I feel like it is that process of getting to know yourself more, to know like why you're feeling lonely. Like if you're feeling lonely because you are slightly isolated, or you're feeling lonely because you're not surrounded by the right people, or you're feeling lonely because you don't like your own company. And like you said, if you don't like your own company, it's not that there's something wrong with you. It maybe just means that you need to work on your own self-love journey. And I think as well, like when you were speaking, then it reminded me of like putting labels on it, because I remember like, and they won't mind me using this as an example, when I was like growing up, my mum used to always say to me that I really enjoy my own company, and she used to always say to my sister that my sister didn't at all. And now we're in our adult lives, obviously we've grown up, we've developed, but that is still the exact same. Like my sister still walks around and says she doesn't like her own company. But sometimes I say to her, you're just living up to that label. Do you know what I mean? Like you've just, like, yeah, maybe when you were younger, you got bored very easily, just a bit more bored than I would. And now you've attached that label. And I can think of friends in my head that will say, I don't like my own company. I just don't like it. But I think it's important to remember that you can actually drop that label. And if you are someone that doesn't like your own company, walk into that, like explore it. Like, why do you not like sitting with yourself? Is there a reason? Are you trying to ignore something? I think that journey into that is really crucial for self-development.
Yeah. So if it's the case of you feel lonely because you actually are isolated, then you need to, like, because I think when you feel lonely because you actually are isolated, you tend to then isolate yourself even more, because the feeling of isolation affects your self-esteem and then makes you think even more, oh well, people just don't want to be around me, so you isolate even more. So when it's that's the case, like, you have to take the action to start to build more friendships. And I always like to think about, like, your, like, life, like, you know, like, all your friends and, like, family and, like, the people in your world as like a garden, and friendships require nurturing. So that means you need to put in effort, you need to meet up, you need to hang out. Like, that's you watering the plant that keeps them in your garden and keeps that relationship healthy and thriving, and you get a sense of fulfillment and connection out of it. Like, that's why you can probably sit in a room of people and still feel lonely, because you don't feel connected to them. Maybe the quality of the friendship isn't actually that high, or maybe they're just not your people. And in that case, like, you need to go out there and find more people. And I think some people really struggle in adult life to, like, make new friends and stuff, but you just have to put yourself out there. Like, be the one that goes first. Like, go first. Like, you be the one that invites someone at work that you sort of get on with for a coffee. Like, you be the one that puts yourself out there. Like, not really anything that's scary about trying to make friends. It's not like you're asking them out on a date. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's more scary. Like, but with friends, people always want to be friends. So if you are feeling lonely because you genuinely are, like, kind of isolated and you haven't got that many people in your life, it's time for you to be brave and start to literally build your life, build your garden up, build your friendships up, nurture the good ones you have, and plant new seeds reach out to new people that you'd like to hang out with, and plant those new seeds in your garden and meet up. And that's going to fulfill that sense of lack of connection that you haven't got. That's going to make that subside.
Yeah, exactly. And then I feel like once you build that, if you start to understand, okay, I do have really good people around me, I do have a good sense of connection, and then if you still feel like you don't really want to spend time alone, or you find it uncomfortable spending time alone, I think that's when you have to decide, okay, it's time to, like, go inward and learn why I'm feeling like this. So I think, yeah, maybe that's, like, the first step, is, like, ensuring that you're not actually just lonely and not actually craving just some connection, because, like we said at the start, like, that's human instinct to really need that connection. I think as well, it's important to remember, if you are feeling like a little bit lonely and you do want to build more connection, it's important to remember that you want healthy, nourishing connections and not building toxic connections, because I think this can be very easy when you're in that place where you feel a little bit lonely.
Say it louder for the people in the back.
Yeah. We've all been there, where, like, you want that bit more connection. You think, oh, maybe I'm getting a bit of a weird intuitive feeling about this person, but do you know what, I just like to maybe hang out with someone, and we can end up maybe surrounding ourselves with people that aren't necessarily good for us. And I think that is a huge sign that you just need to really just think, I'm going to put myself first, and I'm going to cut off toxic people and work on my own self-love journey and build myself up first, because it's really, like, nothing worse than being surrounded by toxic people when you could just really be on your own and just be in your own little bubble. But I think it takes a while to get to that point, especially if you're someone that maybe doesn't like being alone and wants to be surrounded by people and high energy. Maybe you're an extrovert. I think it's quite hard to make that decision and think, oh my God, this person's actually toxic and it's not actually helping me.
I think you usually have to go through the negative experience of valuing having meh people in your life over how much you value your own time on your own, which means that then they're there in your life, and then you realise, do you know what, you lot are a bag of shit, and then you have to cut them off. I feel like you usually have to go through that to learn that lesson. But yeah, when you're feeling lonely, like, you want to be aware that you still maintain your self-worth and know that actually you're better alone than in bad company, and your feeling of loneliness is not actually going to get any better being around
It might even get worse.
shit people. Yeah, it will get worse. So yeah, don't drop your standards for who you're hanging about with because you feel lonely. Like, choose good people. Also, just think, like, you know that funny quote, your vibe attracts your tribe, but it's true.
Yeah, so true.
So just the kind of friendships you want. If you're listening to this podcast, you're interested in self-development, bettering yourself, mindfulness, fun things like that, like all things to do with looking after yourself. There are so many workout classes, women's circles, events, things like that. Just go, just put yourself out there. You might be a bit scared, but going there and having the potential opportunity to maybe make a friend is far greater reward than your fear of rocking up somewhere by yourself and feeling like you're going to look silly or whatever. Like, there's so many ways now to make friends. Also, like, people make friends through like listening to our podcasts and stuff, because we have like a group chat and everything. So there's so many ways to find people that have common interests as you. So just think about that before you invite in people that aren't actually that good for you just because you feel lonely. Like, if you instead just think, no, this is the kind of things I'm interested in, this is the kind of friends that I'd want, and you be that yourself and like go to these things, and you're on that same, you're naturally going to meet people on the same vibe as you. So just put yourself out there.
Yeah, definitely. You'll attract who you need when, yeah, like you said, you like align with your tribe and your energy, especially like going to things. I think, like we said in that other episode, it's like that few seconds of insane courage. Like, if you feel like a bit of an idiot trying to reach out to someone, like, just go for it, because most people want to chat. Like, I was just reflecting then when you were speaking, I was thinking, when I go to gym classes and stuff, some people will chat and some people won't, but I feel like most people would probably want to start a conversation, but it's just,
they're scared.
Yeah, and it just takes one person.
Go first.
Yeah, it just takes one person to start the conversation. So I think you just got to go for it.
Yeah.
And as well, just like with that time with spending time alone, I was just thinking in my head then, I really feel like nothing actually feels as good as learning to spend time on your own and to fully enjoy it.
Yeah, it's
and
very empowering.
Yeah, very empowering. And I think as well, if you're someone that doesn't necessarily enjoy it, or you have times where you don't, because I do sometimes have times where I don't enjoy my own company, and I sit there and you feel like this like horrible feeling in your stomach, don't you? You think, oh, what's everybody else doing? Like, should I be like with other people? Like, why am I on my own? Like,
FOMO, you go on social media, everyone's pure, well, look like they're pure vibing, you know, they're out and they're doing all this, and you're like,
yeah, like, should I be like out? Should I be socializing? Like, and I feel like so many thoughts can run through your head. And like, when I think about it, when I'm in that space, I feel like confused and a bit despair, but I feel like in those moments, that's where you have the most growth, where you stop and ask yourself, like, what do I need now? Like, what do I really need? And like, when I'm thinking about when I'm in those places, I really just stop and I think, what will make me feel better? Like, and I always have to be more gentle with myself, I feel like. 'Cause sometimes I can get quite hard on myself, like, oh my God, why are you feeling bad? Why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? Why don't you like read a book? But I always just calm down and I think, what do I need? Like, why is this uncomfortable for me? And I think asking that question instead of just like, even though I do love Netflix from time to time, even though like trying not to ignore the feeling, you know, oh, just bang a film or ignore it. I think sitting in that emotion and thinking, why is this really uncomfortable for me, is where like the transformation will take place.
Absolutely. And like coming at it from like a therapist point of view, because if you listen to the last episode, then you will have heard Owen say that, who is a psychotherapist. If you have not listened to that episode, do go and listen. But he was basically saying that any kind of negative emotion that you get is like an alarm bell, and it's just like a sign of like something needs to change, you need to come back to balance, or something's not working anymore, or your values aren't working, or something like that. And it's not a feeling to run from, but to actually sit with, like you just said. And I actually, like, my therapist said to me once, because I said, oh, this is so weird, like I'm surrounded by my family, friends, like so many people I'm like deeply close to, but I keep feeling this loneliness feeling, and I'm like, it doesn't make sense, because I'm not actually isolated or disconnected. And then that's where that difference is. And she was like, don't run from those feelings, sit in the discomfort of them because they're trying to teach you something. When she said that, I was like, wow, that slaps. Thank you. And then I was like, okay, so I'll try that, try your way. And then I did. And then, because then you drop the fear of that feeling, because I think it is a horrible feeling in your stomach. And that's what people then want to run away from and avoid and numb, and they'll just do anything just to like, you know, make plans with someone else or whatever, like just anything. And they'll, you know, people might even panic about the weekend, you know, people that like live alone and then and like, you know, maybe you live in a city and you work in the office Monday to Friday, and then that's kind of like quite social, but at the weekend you feel like really lonely. Like there's so many adults that get that, and then you'll like maybe have dread as you come towards the weekend that you're going to have another lonely weekend. And actually, and like we said, there's that line between maybe you are isolated and maybe actually there's something here for you in this uncomfortable feeling. But when she said that to me and I decided, okay, I'll try your way and I'll not be afraid of that feeling and I'll like invite it in and I'll sit with it, it just subsided anyway, because the fear of it was making it more persist, you know, like what you resist persists. So stop resisting it and it will go away anyway. But what it was like, that feeling was doing was just calling me in for deeper reflection and like to be with myself, because we have all the answers within us. And when you get comfortable being alone, like you open up basically the channel to hear that, to get to hear your intuition, to hear, you know, important things, messages from like your higher self and like your subconscious mind, and just to reflect on your life and have like breakthroughs and everything. So that's what that lonely feeling was inviting me into, was growth. So once I like just wasn't afraid of it and I just like went for it, then you open yourself up to get the lesson of whatever it is that it's trying to teach you. And remember, Estelle said in that episode, like, our wounds are the biggest gifts. And like, obviously loneliness isn't necessarily a wound, it's just a negative feeling, but just those negative traumas, emotions, anything, they are safe to feel. And when you do feel them and give them love and attention, you actually get a massive lesson out of it. And like she said, a gift. No, because the gift can be that you realize, oh my God, I hate my job. I don't want to do this anymore. And then you change your life, or it could just be that you realize, oh my God, I've not been acting like I'm enough. And then you change your life, like all different things like that. So that's often what that feeling is inviting you in for, is to learn something. And you shouldn't resist it. Like, you are 100% brave enough to sit with it. Like, everyone's brave enough to sit with themselves, because whatever you're scared of is an illusion, and on the other side of what you're going to get from sitting with yourself and developing a deep relationship with yourself is far greater of a feeling and a far more beautiful experience that your current scared of being lonely mindset can actually understand. So you need to just trust it and just go.
Yeah, I love that so much. I actually had a really nice thing the other day. So I went to a breathwork ceremony with a guy called Craig Heaton. If anyone is like Manchester based or Northern based, definitely recommend him. He's really good. And he was explaining all about like your subconscious mind and like really getting quiet to hear the whispers. And that's basically what you were just saying. Like, if you're not settling down and being quiet, then you're not going to hear the whispers and the messages. And he was explaining that your subconscious will never ever ever bring up something that you're not strong enough to deal with.
Oh yeah, 100%.
And I was like, that's such a nice thought, because I think like when you start doing the inner work, and like say if you're feeling lonely, you're like, oh my God, what is this trying to teach me? Or if you feel uncomfortable in your life and you can't work out like what is the matter, I think it's very easy to resist it, like you said, like put the resistance on. Oh, I don't want to feel this loneliness, I don't want to feel these uncomfortable feelings, and you can run from them and be scared, but obviously that causes more resistance and it's just going to persist. But I think reminding yourself that your subconscious will never ever bring up anything you can't deal with is such a comforting feeling. So spending time alone really helps you quieten down your mind through different practices, and then you can really listen to like your own inner calling and like the messages from within. And I think like even on like a simple level, if you don't really enjoy the time that you spend on your own, it's like thinking, why do I not enjoy that time? Like, how are you speaking to yourself? What are you doing in that time? Like, are you doing things that make you feel good? Like when we're alone, what we like read, journal, meditate, and a bunch of other things. But like we do a lot of stuff to deepen into our intuition because that makes us feel really good. So if you don't like spending time alone and you find it really uncomfortable, do something that makes you feel good. Like journal, write about how you feel. Like it's probably the relationship you've had with spending time alone, which you're just reflecting on to like how you feel now. Do you know what I mean? Like I don't like spending time alone because I've always spoke to myself in a horrible way. But you can change that. Like you can just decide to change it.
I think when you have that desire to be comfortable being alone and be comfortable in your own company, that is self-love. Like that's what you're desiring, is a self-loving relationship with yourself. The way to get that self-loving relationship you want is to spend time with yourself. Like that is where massive self-love is built, is in the times when you're alone. And we always say that at our self-love workshop, like where self-love starts is like in your own heart, like at home when you're alone, or anything, like when you're out on a walk, like in these moments when it's just you and you, and you tap into your own heart. That's where the self-love is starting to be built, because self-love is from within, it's not from anything else. And your desire to be comfortable being alone means that you have self-love, and the only way to get that is to just sit and be alone, like chicken or the egg, you know, thing. So you have so much to gain from actually just being like, okay, right, I am just gonna have an afternoon to myself and be okay with that. And start and just reframe it and start to, rather than like dreading being alone and trying to avoid it, reframe it to being a luxury and like a really valuable time. And, you know, love yourself, pamper yourself. Like, I know we always say self-love is not bubble baths and all of that, but as in make your time with you sacred in whatever way that means to you. We were just saying that we like to read because, you know, you can just tune out and like you can get through a good chunk of books. We like to meditate, do long journaling, like because we journal daily for gratitude lists, but when you really spend that time on your own, that's a great time to do, you know, big stream of consciousness journaling and meet yourself deeper there. And you know, and some people love skincare, some people love to do face masks, and some people love bubble baths. And you know, I love to wash and blow dry my hair. It takes me ages. That's something that I love to do. So and like that's part of my, if I'm going to have like a Saturday to myself, that will be part of the Saturday. Like you know, like things like that, like, you know, so you can treat it as a luxury and make it fun and pleasurable and nice, and reframe it.
Yeah, so I feel like it's one of those things as well, that if the actual opportunity to spend time alone was taken away, you know, like say for example when people have kids and stuff, and then the luxury of that gets taken away, and I bet they think, oh my god, I'd really
love
wish
some time alone.
I really wish I'd spent more time on my own. So I think definitely reframing it as a luxury and thinking I get to spend time on my own. It's not that like I have to or I'm left on my own this weekend. It's like, oh my god, I get to spend time on my own. Some people would absolutely kill for this opportunity to spend time on their own. So it's like, how can I utilize this time?
Yeah, that I don't have to, I get to is just like a good thing to reframe like everything in your life. I don't have to go and visit my grandma. I get to go and visit my grandma. Like, you know, things like that. So yeah, you should reframe how you like view the time with yourself. But also the number one thing that you have to do in life, and I think the number one thing that like the universe is always trying to make you do, is just come back to your authentic self and like embrace your authenticity. Like with everything, like when you're trying to manifest, if it's not truly aligned for you, you won't get it. Like you know, and you're trying to like force things that aren't meant for you, it doesn't work. Like you know, what is meant for you, what's authentically meant for you is like an effortless vibration. And when you're spending time on your own, you are just you and you. There's no mask. You're not pretending to be anybody else. You're not like adjusting yourself to fit in, because there's no one to fit in with. You're just with yourself. So when you do that, you get more comfortable with who you are, and you start to actually understand who you are more, what you like, what are your values, what's important to you, where do you want your life to go, rather than like absorbing the values and the opinions and the energies of those around you, or like your family or what society tells you or anything like that. Like because you start to care about what the people around you care about, but you might not actually care about that. So when you're spending time on your own, it's actually a massive opportunity to get back closer to your true authentic self, which is the tagline of this podcast. Because when you do be your true authentic self, like, you're liberated, you're living a life true to you, you're being you, showing up as you love you. Like, that's a liberating feeling. So that's also one of the massive bits of gold that lies in you being comfortable alone. And what I was saying about how your fearful mind that's scared of being alone and hates feeling lonely, your mind hasn't experienced that gold yet. Like, and it doesn't know that's possible, because it's like you stumble on the gold if you just lean into that lonely feeling and just say, okay, what's up? What do you want? Like, what's the lesson here? I'll sit with you. Let's hang out. And let's see what comes up. That's what it comes up. It's like, serendipity, the right word, where you like stumble on something really nice. Like, oh my God. It's like, sorry. Stop it. It's like serendipity. Is that the right word? Fuck you, man. Stop it. We need to perform. So it's like serendipity. Is that the right word?
Yeah. I feel like serendipity.
Shit. Fuck. I just won't ask you if it's the right word. I'm just going to keep talking. So it's like serendipity, like you stumble on something really amazing that you didn't really expect. So that is also the gold that's on the other side of you leaning into your loneliness and like getting comfortable being alone, is that you get to meet yourself on a deeper level and know yourself on a deeper level and connect to your authenticity, which is the most powerful thing that you can do.
Yeah, for sure. And if you've not experienced that gold, but you want to get to that gold, obviously it's quite hard to like almost motivate yourself for something you've not experienced, and that's with anything in life. So I think in situations like that, you have to use like expanders and people that inspire you. And like, if you've not experienced that, then take it from me and Grace that it feels absolutely amazing to spend time alone and get to know yourself deeper and like truly enjoy your company. Like, get to the end of the day and think, oh my God, I've had such a nice day with myself. Because like, when you're with yourself, the only person whose energy you have to consume is your own. And, if you're spending the day correcting your own energy, then you're going to feel absolutely amazing. So, yeah, if you're kind of thinking, but I've not experienced that, it feels so far away, then just look at people that inspire you and just know that, like, it is so achievable. Like, you can do it and you can get to that place.
The only reason why I ever got to that place was because I was, like, forced to by life. Like, just the way that my whole life was set up and everything that I was doing, there was like no other choice other than you're just gonna be spending some time alone. So like, it's just gonna happen anyway, because you've got no choice. Like, you've got no choice. Like, I just had no choice. I feel like, but it was such a gift, and I feel like life and like the universe just set that up for me, because it was time for me to turn into my authenticity. Because I think around that time I was not properly embracing my authenticity. Like, I was doing a lot of like shape shifting around other people, as in like when you're like meeting new people, meeting new friends, like I was like doing what I thought I should do to fit in with this crowd, stuff like that. So yeah, I did it because I like was forced to. But if I wasn't forced to, I don't think I would have got to that point.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
That journey as well of turning inwards, because I was like forced to, actually led me to gaining awareness of what I wanted, and then what was actually standing in the way of what I was wanting and desiring in my life, which then led me to, see clear as day, okay, I'm standing in my own way, and this problem is, I don't say problem, as in, the issue I was facing was too big for me to look at myself. Like, you have to have someone objectively helping. Like, when you go to therapy, like, they just point out things to you that you just didn't realize, and you're like, yeah, that makes sense, bro.
Yeah, and it's
Like,
so obvious once you realise.
and you're like, oh my God, I've gone 25 years doing that and I didn't even bloody know. Like, stuff like that. So, yeah, it actually, through that journey of like just sitting with myself, it led me to going on my therapy journey. And if you guys want to go on your own therapy journeys, but you aren't sure where to go, where to get a therapist, because it can be overwhelming. There's so many different options. You don't know, so many different types of therapy. You don't even know what to do, what you need. Our podcast is sponsored by BetterHelp, who are an online therapy platform. So you fill out a questionnaire and you just say what are you thinking about? What is you feel called that you need help with? And who are you? What are your beliefs? And all things like that. And they match you up with someone who's perfect for you and whatever it is that you want to work on. So it drops that problem of like, oh, I'm on a list here of like loads of therapists in my local area, but I don't even know which one to pick because they all look the same. BetterHelp just kind of does that for you, because you just fill out a questionnaire. It just matches you up with someone in 2 days.
Yeah, I feel like it's really perfect the way it has that actually, because it can be very overwhelming when you're like unsure on what you even want help for, and then finding the right therapist can be really tricky. But yeah, BetterHelp will match you with the perfect person. And even if you just want to get a feel for the website or like what kind of stuff they offer, you can fill in the questionnaire, as Grace said, and they will get a really good idea of what you want. And then if you do go ahead with it and you're matched with someone and you're not too keen on them, you can actually change for free, which you couldn't really do if you went and signed up. Unless you wanted to just stop, you can change for free until you're happy. So I think it's a really incredible benefit of BetterHelp.
Yeah, because it is really important that you like connect with therapists and vibe with them so you get the most out of it. But not only all those amazing things, BetterHelp is also extremely affordable, much more affordable than traditional offline counselling. So if you want to go to therapy, but you want to go for that, more affordable option, but the quality is still the same, it's still very, very high, then you also get a discount on top of that. So you get 10% off your first month of therapy with BetterHelp. So that's 10% off your entire month of therapy. So say it's 4 weeks in a month, 4 sessions, you're going to get 10% discount on all of those. So to get this discount, just go to the link betterhelp.com/find your feet. That's betterhelp.com/find your feet. Like we said, you fill out a questionnaire, take about 5-10 minutes, and then you'll be matched with a therapist in just under 2 days. And then you can start being seen. You just do it from home, comfort of your own home. So wherever you are in the world, you just need an internet connection and you can literally get therapy, which is pretty cool.
Pretty damn cool. And BetterHelp's mission is to help you start living a happy life today. So if you are feeling like you're not at that happiness level that you deserve, then going ahead and doing therapy is really beneficial and crucial, and you're so worth it if you need that support.
Absolutely. I was recently reading the book Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway, which is like a classic book. And actually, I think if you're scared of being alone, Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway is a pretty good book, actually.
Yeah.
To help you embrace that aloneness and help you feel the fear and do it anyway if you want to build more friends and all that. Anyway, but I was reading that book, and in it spoke about this concept called divine homesickness. And when you feel lonely, like you feel, it's like a bit like a homesickness feeling, like it's this weird feeling in your stomach. And I remember the first time I felt like real proper loneliness in my life, and we spoke about this in the Spiritual Awakening episode. And I said around that time, because it was driving me to turn inwards and sort of look, spending more time alone, so I was like looking for something deeper. I don't know, you just have more time to think, and that's what then led me to discovering like the law of attraction and that side of the world. And then once I realized all of that, the feeling was that I'd come home to myself. So when I read this concept of divine homesickness, I was like, fuck, like that's what it is. Like that is a thing. Like it wasn't just me that felt that, like it is a thing. And so divine homesickness, divine just is like, people call like the universe, like source, God, higher power, whatever word you relate to, like the divine, like that energy, that thing you can't see, that's always at work, that's always like making life work out for you and working in your favor and like trying to help you. So the divine is that. So divine, and we have the divine in us because we all have the universe in us, because we all came from source, like the universe created this whole world. You're part of that world. You create the trees. You are nature as well. So you are a part of the universe like that. And that's where that sense of oneness, when people always say that, that's what that means. Like, we're all actually the same. Like, we are all the same, and we're all having like the same experience. We've all got the same like insecurities. And even though everyone, like, you'd think, oh, they're so confident and they don't think negative thoughts about themselves, they do. And we all actually think the same thing. And social media just like makes it seem like it's not, but we're all one. And so we all have the divine within us, all got that universe within us. And like, the divine is like your higher self. So you might have heard of the term higher self before, or you might not, but your higher self is your higher self. It's like, it's not above you, it's within you. It's that part of you that is like connected to your intuition. It's like the part of you that kind of keeps you inspired and excited for your life, and like guides you, brings you inspiration, brings you wisdom, shows you where to go when you don't know where to go, and is the really nice, wise, like loving, sort of logical part of you that is like, when you're like having a meltdown, it's the little voice you hear of like peace and reason. Like, that's your higher self. And you know, that is connected to, that's the divine part of you. Because like, your higher self, like, you think about the universe is a higher power. Your higher self is just that part within you. So they've all got different words. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah.
Explained it weird, but so divine homesickness is basically a disconnect from your higher self. And the only way you tap into your higher self is if from doing things like meditation, journaling, affirmations, and time in nature. Time alone is how you connect to your higher self. And you can go through your whole life like avoiding your higher self, and that's when you feel that divine homesickness, because you're disconnected from that part of you that guides you, that shows you the way, that makes you feel not alone, that makes you feel supported in life. So yeah, when I read this concept in there of divine homesickness, and they were explaining like, that's why, you know, you should spend time with yourself and connecting to your higher self, because that alleviates that feeling of homesickness. And it's a homesickness you're feeling from being disconnected to yourself. Like, you know, some people call it like your soul or whatever. So you can have that loneliness feeling. What we were saying at the beginning of the episode, like why you can feel that lonely feeling, and you're actually in a room full of people like you, or you're surrounded by loads of people that love you and you love them. It can be that sense of divine homesickness. And that's when that's that invitation to come back and be with yourself, so that you can tap in and connect to your higher self, because you don't really get the opportunity to kind of like connect to your higher self in like the way the Western world runs. You don't connect to the higher self whilst you're like behind your desk like bashing out emails, or while you're rushing around doing a food shop, or you're out having a party. Like, you don't. It's in those moments of like stillness and meditation, reflection and journaling, you know, your gratitude, that's you tapping into your higher self. All of those things are how you do it. So you can easily go through periods of time where you're not connected to that. And it's okay to not be connected to that. It's normal. You're not always going to be tapped into that part of you. And but if you leave it too long, that's when you get that sense of that pit in your stomach, and that's divine homesickness.
Yeah. I'm so glad that somebody's put like a name to this.
Yeah.
Because it's funny, I've obviously read Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. I can't remember when. But not like ages ago, maybe like over a year and a half. And I must have read that bit, but I don't remember it. So it's funny, obviously you spoke about this, was it like yesterday? And I was like, oh my God, I was like, that's so nice to put a name to that feeling, because I felt that so many times, that divine homesickness. And I really feel like if you start to feel that, it's usually before you're invited fully into yourself again. And then I personally think that like with like spiritual awakenings, I feel like we have like mini ones all the time. And I feel like if you're really feeling like that divine homesickness, it's because you're being invited in to go into like a little spiritual awakening. And when you're speaking there, it reminded me of like not long ago at all, when I was kind of going through a period like that where I was going into more of an awakening. And it was when I was in therapy, and I couldn't put my finger on what I was like feeling. And it was like, it was this divine homesickness. But I remember my therapist Estelle was asking like, but what do you feel like? How does this make you feel? And then I came to this conclusion, and I remember writing in my journal, it's like, when I do this, I feel like I'm abandoning myself, like just completely abandoning myself. And that is divine homesickness, because you're not with yourself. Do you know what I mean? Like, I wasn't sitting with myself. I felt like I was abandoning my higher self. And like, obviously, like we just said, you don't have to sit with your higher self all the time. Like, that's not natural. But if you do abandon it for a long period of time, if you are like quite into that spiritual side, you really feel it, like it dents on your soul. And I also think this concept is quite spiritual. And I feel like sometimes people that are maybe not into spirituality may not understand what we're talking about at all, even though I kind of believe that obviously everyone is like a spiritual being to some degree. But you also notice that, you know, like when people will sometimes go their whole lives and might have a successful career, beautiful family, and then they get to like their midlife and like they feel this absolute despair, and then they may look into like spirituality or connecting with their higher self, or maybe just doing work on themselves, and then all of a sudden they'll feel that like reassurance, like they've come home. And that is probably because like their whole lives they were so busy creating this life that all along they probably had divine homesickness and they just didn't have a clue what it was. But I think, yeah, putting a name to that is so powerful. Like, now I'm always going to understand. And I think even knowing to identify it as that, it's like, okay, I feel a bit despair.
Yeah, I know what to do.
Yeah, I'm not lonely. There's not something wrong with me. I've actually got the word kind
I'm
of makes me
lonely
laugh.
from myself.
Yeah, I'm lonely from
myself.
myself. Yeah, because I've abandoned myself, and your higher self is like, come back. It's like, you feel so good when you're connected to that. Like, I'll guide you if you just come back.
And when you were saying like, oh, it's quite a spiritual concept, but actually when I first felt that, I was not in any way spiritual. I wasn't thinking about anything spiritual, and it just was. But that's what it was, inviting me into myself. Where then I was then like, I hate that word awakened, because I just think it sounds like so spiritual ego. You know, I don't like the spiritual ego, but it was inviting me in to realize and integrate this really important part of your like well-being, because I believe that you got to look after yourself, like mind, body and spirit. So and people get scared of like spirituality and things like that, because obviously there's so many like different versions of it, and you know, different rules and beliefs. But actually I think we all have that little spiritual side in us. And you just kind of like embody that in your own way. Like for me, like just connection to the universe and like a higher power has nothing to do with any kind of rules. There's no one thing that I like follow. It's like mine, and it's personal to me. And I think that's within all of us. And sometimes when you have that feeling of divine homesickness, because it's time. It's that time in your life when you need to embrace that part of you, and you need to discover it and become aware of it, because it's going to like maybe take you to the next level in your life. It's going to help you through the next part of your life. Like, because I think when you're growing up and you're younger and like you're with your family all the time, like you're never alone. So I feel like it usually kind of happens to people when they're first having those experiences where it's just them in the world, and they're like, okay, it's just me in the big bad world. And then that divine homesickness brings you back to finding your higher self, and your higher self, like we said, is the one that inspires you, gives you really good guidance, is the connection to your intuition, and is the one that inspires you and like brings you optimism. It's the thing that drops little random seeds of ideas in you of like when you're like thinking, what should I do with my life? Your higher self is the one that's like, maybe you should try going to that yoga class next week. And you think, what? But like those little messages, like you should act on them all, because you're getting them for a reason. And actually you going to that yoga class might lead you to meeting someone who's going to like offer you a job or something that you never would have had before. Or maybe you're going to go and you're going to realize, oh my God, I actually love yoga. I want to become a yoga teacher. And that becomes your purpose, or stuff like that. So your higher self is the one that drops tiny seeds of inspiration for you to lead you on your life of what it's meant to be. So when you're feeling that sense of divine homesickness and you've never even embraced your higher self or any kind of like spirituality, let's say, it's just an invitation into that, because to get you to where you want to be, to the next part of your life, it's required of you to embrace that part of you, because like how often do we call on our higher selves, like and that like higher power and like the universe and just like knowing that there's like support and guidance is like life changing, and it just helps you so much to stay like optimistic and not think the world's like against you, and not like think that everything's horrible. Like it's the thing that makes you feel like, yeah, my dreams are huge and yeah, they're crazy, but I know that, you know, the universe works with me, so I'm gonna be supported to make it happen. Like, so sometimes to get to where you want to be, like if it is a big dream or whatever, like you need that mindset of wonder and magic and possibility and like miracles are possible for me. And that's what divine homesickness invites you into integrate into your life.
Yes, beautifully put. And I feel like in this episode we obviously spoke a lot about being alone and connected to your higher self. And I also just wanted to like spin a light on it, which say for like people that are in relationships, because once you obviously get into a relationship, it takes up a lot of your time, it takes up a lot of your energy. And like, say for example, I've got into a new relationship, not really mentioned it.
It's official, she's announcing it on the podcast.
I know, weird. Not really mentioned it on the podcast, but obviously in so many episodes we talk about relationships and our past, so any really loyal listeners may be curious.
Yeah.
See, I am
the finder's going to be like buzzing right now.
Yeah,
Abby's in love.
Yeah, so I've been to a very new and exciting relationship. And the thing what is like new and actually exciting about it is the fact that obviously he is really into what I'm into. So like we will do stuff like breath work together, we'll meditate together, we'll talk about all those kind of things, which is actually really beneficial for me connected to my higher self in some ways. But you also have to take into account that you have to still put the time aside to connect to your higher self. And I think as well, if you're like, say, new to this and you want to connect to your higher self, but you've been in a relationship for a long time, it's like you have to remember to put that time aside to be alone. Like it's so easy when you fall in love or you get into a new relationship to want to spend all your time with that person. But if you really want to like not have that divine homesickness and keep true to yourself, you have to remember to be alone and spend that time, because that's something I had to remind myself. I thought, well, this is a new and really exciting relationship. But I thought the most important thing to me above absolutely everything is that like I have a good relationship with myself, because that helps me show up to the people in my life. Because if I don't have that,
a better romantic relationship if you have a better relationship with yourself.
If I completely abandon myself, as I say, and don't connect to my higher self or do anything I enjoy, then I'd be a nightmare of a girlfriend anyway, and I won't be a good friend or anything like that. So like when I kind of got into this relationship, I had to remind myself, like, I'm always going to spend time connecting with my higher self. And if I feel like that's slipping, it's like just having that remembrance to think, oh, actually, I'm feeling a little bit of divine homesickness. Maybe I need to come more into myself. But I think that's really important to remember, especially in romantic relationships, because they can be very consuming in both good and bad ways. But yeah, remembering that the relationship with yourself is so important before that relationship, because then you're not going to show up in the way you want.
And then if like you make sure that you protect that time with connection to yourself, if that relationship passes, not saying yours will, but just like anyone, if your relationship goes, then you're okay because you've maintained that connection to yourself. But then there'll be people that have never spent much time alone, because, you know, some people are like proper relationship people and they're just like, you know, always in kind of like a long-term relationship and very rarely have periods of being single. To like, you know, I was saying like I was like forced to connect to my higher self and connecting with myself, like there was like no other option other than this is your time, it's happening now. So there's people that like have not had that opportunity in life, because typically when you feel a lonely feeling, you just run away from it. No one tells you to sit with it. No one teaches you to sit with your negative emotions like that, and that they've actually got something to share for you. They're never framed to us like that. So you normally run away. But you know, there is people in life who have a life experience where there's lots of relationships. They don't even have that chance really to like spend that time understanding like their higher self. at all. So so you're saying, oh, I'm going to make sure I don't abandon myself. Then there's people that are in there that have never even done it. So, but if you start to carve out that time for you and doing that and connecting to yourself in that way, you will have a much better relationship. Because I mean, what is more attractive as well in your partner than someone who like is really secure in themselves and like doesn't have like a sense of neediness and like just has like unconditional love for you, wants to hang out with you, but also is totally cool like just chilling by themselves and not being, because that's when like that manipulation, like control tactics start to come in, even from you, like even though you're not a manipulative controlling person or whatever, you running away from that lonely feeling will make you panic and think, oh fuck, oh god, I don't want to feel that, so I need them to be with me, and oh, they want to go out to a football match, so I'm gonna fucking make them feel like shit, and you're gonna be on the phone like, oh, are you okay? Oh, okay. All right.
Passive aggressive.
Fine. Oh, no, it's fine. Honestly, you go. You enjoy yourself. Doing all that. And then they're like, oh, I feel bad. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, when there's nothing more attractive and sexy than your partner that's like, you have a fucking great time. I'll see you later.
Yeah,
I'm gonna go and have a bubble bath or whatever, you know, like being totally cool with that time on your own, because it's such an energy as well. Like you can feel that energy of someone who's like, please hang out with me.
Yeah.
Versus someone who's like, oh, you're here, amazing. But then also, we're having time alone, great.
Yeah.
Like, and you're just cool with both.
Yeah, that's so true. I think as well it comes down to like your boundaries and like knowing when you need time alone. Like when you're speaking then, it reminded me, because like, say for example, he is obviously really into the gym, so like when he says to me like, no, I want to go to the gym, like I'm prioritizing that, like to me I'm not like, oh my god, why are you going to the gym, like oversee me or something. I'm like, I know that makes you happy and that's your thing, so you do that.
Yeah.
And I think the more you have like that trust and that respect for each other's like hobbies and like what they want to do, like if I said, no, I want to be on my own tonight, I need to journal, he'd be like, cool. Like he just knows that like, oh, cool, I get it. But yeah, I think like having that boundary, because if you don't have that boundary with yourself, then obviously nobody else is going to learn and respect that.
Yeah, if you haven't got like your own like sort of hobbies and higher self activities or whatever, then yeah, when your partner wants to do them, then you're going to be like, oh my god, why are you doing this to me? Ugh.
You don't love me anymore.
You don't love me. I mean nothing to you. And then that like that's not the truth. And also that all that does is like make those feelings of loneliness and you associating the loneliness with like letting it chip away your self-esteem, it's going to make those feelings worse if then you look at like your partner going and doing hobbies and you not. You're just going to internalize even more like negativity about yourself. So, you know, you don't want to do that. And Lisa, the relationship coach, who, you know, we just reference all the time, who came on our pod, I went to one of her workshops, and it was like a workshop about everything I wish that everyone that I knew at the age from like 18 to 30 or something like that, like in the younger years. So it was just a bit like a crash course on like just relationship stuff really. And she was saying in it that desire is created in the distance or something like that. Don't take that toxically. Don't start ignoring your boyfriend because you think it's going to create desire.
No silent treatment.
Don't start doing it in a manipulative way. But as in, she was talking about like, there's nothing more attractive than seeing your person doing their thing. So she was saying like when she's there and she's on podcast and her hubby sees her, he's like, wow. You know that TikTok of that sound when it goes, do you ever look at your person and just think, wow, how did I land you? Yeah, it's that moment. Yeah. And that's what they mean is in desire is built in creating distance, in that like, you know, if you're like doing your things like that, like it builds that, it builds that attraction and desire.
That's a top tip, I feel like.
Yeah, it is a top tip. But yeah, don't take it the wrong way. Don't start being toxic. But yeah, like having your own things anyway is very attractive. So, but if you're in a relationship and you've never connected to your higher self before, or even like made that connection to yourself, this is what I mean. Before you've gone over that bridge and found the gold, you haven't got any clue what that gold feels like. So you won't be motivated to try it. but this here is your invitation to try it, because you don't lose anything, basically. You just gain stuff. So
yeah, exactly. And become a better person. And like we said, a better person for your relationships once you experience that gold. So you can bring the warm energy of that gold to your relationship.
Absolutely.
And your friendships. And we are just going to finish off this very heartwarming episode, I would say, with our quote of the week. And the quote is, "It's beautiful to be alone. To be alone does not mean to be lonely. It means the mind is not influenced and contaminated by society."
Ooh, contaminated. Yeah, I really like that quote. I saw it on Pinterest when I was having a weekend with my higher self, and I was like, love that. But, you know, it's true. That quote sums up that alone time brings you back to your authentic self, because it basically cleanses you of other people's thoughts, opinions, values, what they think is important, and it gives you the chance to actually hear in your own mind, from your own heart, your higher self, your intuition, what actually is important to you, what are your values, what are your opinions, rather than you absorbing those of everyone around you.
Yeah, exactly. Like, if you can take one thing from this episode, I think it's, if you're struggling to hear your inner voice, you just need to turn down the volume of everybody else, whether that is like society or friends or family. Like, turn down that voice and you will hear your inner voice.
And everything that you need is within, and people always say that, and half the time you're like, what are you bloody talking about? No, it's not. But it is. And like, when you're feeling lost, actually the person that's going to make you feel found is not outside of you, it's within you. And that lost feeling is an invitation to find who's within you, and, you know, the map will be revealed where you need to go. But I hope this episode has been helpful. We get this question quite a lot, so I hope the last hour has filled you with the guidance that you need if this is you, and you need to go on that journey.
Yeah, I hope you're ready to spend some very quality time alone. Schedule it in, you're going to feel absolutely amazing.
By the way, guys, we've got a really exciting new series that we're going to be running on the podcast, and we're going to do one episode of it a month, and basically it's a little bit like an agony aunt kind of vibe. We're not calling it agony aunt though. Still kind of deciding on the name, but I think we're going to go with the Find Your Feet series, Ask Grace and Abby. So, you know, because we are helping you find your feet. And basically, a lot of the time on Instagram, a lot of the questions we get are things like everything that we answered in this episode about how do I get comfortable in my own company. You know, we get asked a lot of questions like that, as you can see, we've just done a whole episode about that one question, giving you the answers to that one question. And we can't, you know, you can only give a certain level of answer on Instagram, because you've only got a certain level of like space on a story to share anything. But in a podcast, you can have a proper chat about it, back and forth, and, you know, yeah. So this is a community-led podcast, and we just thought it would be such a nice way to connect the community that surrounds this podcast, because I think a lot of what you'll probably realize if you watch our Instagram stories is when we share the responses to these kind of questions, these advice kind of questions, is that other people have the same problem as you, the same fears, same thoughts, and you can really benefit from hearing like a good point of view and a good bit of wisdom and advice, even if it's not necessarily a question you specifically asked, but it might be an issue that you struggle with as well. But like, it will just make you as well feel not alone, like in your own things. And I just think it'll be really nice. So if you want to be featured on the first episode of this, there's two things you can do. You can DM us on Instagram and just write the question of what you want to ask us. Or you can voice note it on Instagram as well, and we will put your voice note in the episode. But I understand, like, you will remain anonymous, like, but I also understand that like a voice means you're not kind of anonymous, because you can recognize people from a voice. So if you don't want to do a voice note, like, obviously you don't have to. You can just DM us on the gram with just some text. But a voice note would be really cool, really fun. So if you want to do that, please do. Or if you don't want to DM us on Instagram, maybe you don't even use Instagram, just email us hello@findingyourfeetpodcast.com and just put the subject as Find Your Feet, Ask Grace and Abby, and then just stick it in there. And we'll pick probably about 3 questions per episode, and we will run it once a month. So yeah, if you want to be on the first one, I think we're going to do it near the end of what month are we in? We're in October. Yeah, I think by the time this all works out, it'll be like the end of November that will first come out. So yeah, get your questions in, get involved. If there's anything you've ever wanted to hear our advice on, our point of view, our wisdom, our expertise, I do feel like we're really good at advice, I must say that. So please send it in, and we will feature you in the episode in this new series. But I did a poll of it on Instagram, like, what do you think? What do you guys think of this story? And like, everyone voted hell fucking yeah to that. So it's coming.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like one of our favourite parts of, like, even say the workshops or when we do the Agony Aunt lives, which we don't do that often, is answering the questions. Like, I think it's so fun, like giving the advice. And like you said, you can't always, on like an Instagram story, like sometimes we'll answer and I'm like, oh my god, I could have gone on for ages about
god,
that.
yeah, I have to stop myself from typing a
same.
million words on those bloody stories. I'm like, is anyone even reading all this? Because I've basically written an essay. Like, there's so much, and I'm like, I could say so much more, but I need to stop. Like, there's just so much, just different avenues that need to be considered and explored when we're answering those kind of questions. So it's just not, we can't serve you best on an Instagram story. So we're going to do it on the pod instead, so we can give you more in-depth answers, and so that I just think it's going to be a really fun thing to listen to as well.
Yeah, I'm really, really excited to do it.
Entertaining for you guys.
Yeah, and if any of your questions, if you think, oh, is this a little bit silly? Like, honestly, there is no silly questions. I sound like such a teacher, but there is really no silly questions whatsoever. Like we said in this episode, a lot of us have the same fears, thoughts, everything. So like discussing it and getting it out in the open will actually be really beneficial for you.
So yeah, if you want to get involved, like I said, DM us on the gram with a voice note, or just type it, or come and email us hello@findingyourfeetpodcast.com. We put the email in the show notes of the episode. But thank you very much for listening, guys, and I hope this inspired you to turn inwards. And like we mentioned, if therapy is part of that journey to help you do that, you know where to go. With our podcast sponsor, you will get a discount on your first month of online therapy with BetterHelp. So just go to betterhelp.com/findyourfeet to access that discount.
Yes, and if you do want to connect with us further on Instagram, come and follow us, give us a DM, let us know what you thought of the episode at Finding Your Feet Podcast.
That's all for now. We will see you in the next episode. Love you guys.
Bye.
Bye.